It Happened on the Job, our podcast for mostly entertaining conversations with contractors. My name is Mike Fisher. With me is Brian Summers.
How you doing?
And our guest today is in the middle of our epidemic, COVID-19 scare is Daniel Williams with Steel Design and Build. Daniel, how you doing?
Good morning. I'm good, man. I'm good. Good as can be expected.
Yeah, right. We are maintaining our social distance over here and quarantining when we can. So, but it sounds like you guys are a little bit different. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started, where, your company and all those kind of things. It's fun stuff.
All right. Well, this is actually my 21st year in the business. And I started out as a grunt for a steel erector, and all we did was military work. So, I literally worked my way up from the bottom to where I started, just fetching whatever it is that he told me to fetch, and we worked on, that was back in 99, and we worked on every military installation in all of Southern California. And so that was it was pretty fun coming up because you could build some really cool stuff. The problem was you couldn't ever show it to anybody. You could never take your family to go see the projects or something like that. And back then you couldn't even take pictures, And so I did that. I did that for about 6 years before I went and got my own contractor's license. And then my mentor retired and moved back to Texas. And so it was kind of nice because by the time I started my own company, I pretty much just took all of his clientele that I'd already been working with for 6 or 7 years. And so I started my own business young and dumb and didn't have a lot of cash. And so I've made every mistake in the book. And I try not to make those mistakes twice. But I literally built my company from myself and one friend, and I had $5,000 in the bank, and I built that up over about a 7 or 8 year period to where we were doing about $6 million a year, and I had about 60 guys in the field, and then it just got to be too much of a hassle, because it was one of those scenarios where you either run your business or your business runs you.
Yeah.
And at that point in time in 2012, my wife and I had just had our fourth baby, and she didn't want me to be working so much and be on the road so much. And most of the military places, I'd say half of the military bases that we worked on, were hours away. And so sometimes you'd end up being out there all week, and you'd come home for the weekends and things like that when you were on a sizable project. But so in 2012, we were cooking. I mean, we didn't even have to really search for work. We had clients that just kept bringing us repeat business. And so at that time, my biggest problem was saying no. I really didn't know how to say no. And so it ran me ragged. So what I ended up doing was the stars aligned, and I think God's plan for me that time was to shut the business down for several different reasons, and which I could go more into detail over a couple beers, but so I had an opportunity to close down my business and then transfer like my my role and knowledge over to a consultant type role to help some fabricators, because I was just an erector. So I would take on the job. I was doing a lot of design build projects with the government. So I would do a lot of front end work on design and budgeting and value engineering. And then I would work with a fabricator to make sure that they could produce all the steel on budget and on time. And I was just shocked at how many of these fabricators had been in business 20, 30, 40 years, and they were still struggling with like standard operational issues. Like they either, didn't have the right people in the right place, or they didn't have the right structure in their, in their organization or in each department. And so I was just shocked at some of the things that I would deal with, dealing with some of these guys. So then I thought, you know what, if I transfer all this work over to someone else and then I help them, be more successful and help them do it better and raise the bar, then I thought that would be better. And it ended up working out. It ended up that I enjoyed it more. I enjoyed helping other companies be more successful and work within their organization. And I enjoyed that more than running my own erection company and, having to deal with everything all the way up from hiring and payroll and, business development and project management and actual production, so I did that in 2013 is when I really made a switch over. I closed down my erection company and really became a consultant. And I started with a company down in Spring Valley. I helped them grow through 2013. We did a lot of really cool projects. And then the only problem with this role is that if you do it right, you usually work yourself out of a job,
Yeah.
So
teach them how to do it the right way, and then they don't need you anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
So within 12 months, we had reorganized the staff. We had gotten rid of some people that really didn't belong. We had hired on some new talent, and we had boosted, sales and relationships with good clients. And so really at month 12, I was sitting there and had no fires to put out. And so I was like, oh man, I guess I don't need to be here, And so it worked out that it was right around December. And so I took the month of December off, and kind of took that time to reevaluate, like where my business was going and what I was going to do. And really by January, February, I already had 2 or 3 more clients. And it just continued to kind of evolve and grow because, as I started helping clients, I started realizing that a lot of these companies, even when you sit down with a CEO or a CFO or, a director of operations, any of those guys, they'll tell you, what they think they want to do with the company or where they think they want to go. But sometimes they mislead you in a way where they kind of tell you, how great things are, and it's not necessarily reality. And then other times they're honestly telling you what they think, but they really don't know if they're actually prepared for that kind of growth. Like they'll say, hey, I want to boost sales by 25% in the next year or two. And then, you end up boosting sales, but the problem is when you boost sales, it kind of busts it kind of busts the flow in some other department. So I started learning that you can't just come into a company and grow sales without preparing all their other divisions for those sales, because they would say, oh yeah, we're ready for it. And then when I brought them all these new jobs, then, they would start to kind of, falter after a certain part. So I started learning to do more of my own homework on their company and say, okay, is this department ready to grow? Is this department scalable? Do you have the right people in place that can handle, 10 or 15% more work? And so I mean, just like any other business, I started actually, learning as I went and either making mistakes and making corrections or just looking for better ways to do it. And the neat thing is that I've been able to meet a lot of amazing people and some really awesome companies. And then I just help them as they need, so like if I help them with a couple little things and then they don't need my help after that, then we're good. And then, I kind of go on my way and they call me back whenever they need some help with something. I've helped clients when they get into troubled projects. I've helped clients when they either have too much work and they need help managing it, or sometimes when they don't have enough work on the books and they're worried about layoffs and not being able to, weather the storm. So, whatever it is that some of these steel companies, whether it be a fabricator or an erector, I try to jump in and help them out because I love this industry and I love building structures out of steel.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy to hear how it's evolved from, like you said, where you were as just kind of, my dad used to call it a gopher boy, all the way up to evolving into, most guys just go right into their own company or their own construction company. And you went there too, but you kind of saw value somewhere else and able to balance that family life while still being valuable in the industry. So, I mean, good on you for that. That's awesome. How many on an average, how many, contractors are you working with, at any given time?
Of course it changes, but, let me think here. About this time last year, I had 5 different clients, and they all needed something different. Like some of them, they wanted to get into design build, and so I would help them do that, and then I would go to all those meetings for them, and I would kind of mentor their project managers and their estimators to learn how to deal with the front end part of design build projects, where you just go to a bunch of meetings, and it seems like every meeting you go to, they just changed all the work that you just previously did the week before. And it's super frustrating. But back last year in February, March, I had about 5 clients. And then one of my clients actually, which this has happened 4 times in the last 6 or 8 years, is that a client will come to me and they'll say, look, we know you have other clients, but we really want you to come on full time and really help us, do a full overhaul of certain departments, or really push on sales or something like that. And so I've done it a couple of times to where what I'll do is I'll kind of taper off on some of my smaller clients that really don't have, a lot of work for me. And then I'll go pretty much full time with one client. Like right now, I've got a couple clients that we're pursuing projects, but my full-time attention is on this project in San Diego. We're building an airline support building at the San Diego airport. And this project it's 108,000 square foot building. It's kind of a hybrid, pre-engineered metal building. It's a beautiful structure. It's 145 feet wide and about 35 feet tall. And we just built the entire structure. We paneled all 3, we paneled 3 walls, and then we put the entire roof on in 9 weeks, which is almost unheard of.
Wow.
And we did that because the airport was in such a hurry to get this thing built that they literally paid us $1 million over the original installation price to accelerate this. So a bunch of our guys, have been making really good money for the last 9 weeks, but they've also been, been working their hands to the bone. So,
yeah.
It's a neat building. I mean, it's really not super complicated. It's a nice structure, but just the pace of having to put it up so fast, really required all of us to be all hands on deck. So we've been here 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, pushing this job to get this thing done. And so every once in a while there's something like that, but then I'm sure right after this project is over, things will kind of slow down a bit. And I've got some other design build projects that are still in the works. Some of them have kind of hit a slow track because of this whole COVID-19 thing. But yeah, usually I have one major client that needs more attention. And then sometimes it kind of tapers off where I only have, I'll have 3 or 4 different clients that just need, they just need a little bit of attention that might require, 10 or 15 hours a week of my time to go through and help some of their people or possibly, come up with systems that they need to use in their departments, or just searching for projects that are suitable to their talents. That's something that I really enjoy doing, is helping companies figure out what they're really good at that kind of sets them apart from the rest of the industry. And then I can kind of go through the entire industry and the market and kind of see what projects are coming up that are suitable for them.
Yeah. So, I don't know, before we started recording, we were chatting, and you mentioned you were actually on a job site. And I think when we talked last week, scheduling this thing, you mentioned you were on a job site also. So how much of your I mean, I guess obviously the answer is you do kind of see it through, but how much time are you spending, developing systems and training and mentoring and that kind of stuff versus actually, out on projects and I guess kind of how involved are you, at the actual project level versus, the higher level systems and mentoring and that kind of stuff?
Well, it's funny because this year, in the last 12 months, I've taken some real drastic changes to where I went to, I was up north at a very, probably one of the best steel companies I've seen that, and I was up at the executive level. I mean, I was working with the executive team and the CEO for seven straight months. And so, I mean, I was, one of those guys that shows up in a nice shirt and khakis every day and just goes to meetings and does strategy, and you work on drawings and pricing and estimating and contracts and all that good stuff. I mean, I probably went 7 months without any dirt under my nails, so, and then all of a sudden we got them to an amazing place where we sold $52 million worth of work. And we actually sold more than the CFO was actually planning on us selling. So then we got to a place where, I felt like it was time for me to move on. And so it just so happened that this project here, I've been working on the design of this project for a year and a half. And so when this came up and we started picking out all the players to be on this project, things just started getting more and more complicated as far as design changes and, an accelerated schedule and all of that, to where, I really kind of felt like, if I don't show up to this job every day and really give it a full effort to be coordinating with all these other players, if something goes wrong, I'm going to regret it. I'm going to regret not being there to try to help, steer the boat in the right direction. So this was kind of a weird situation to where we had to juggle some things and figure out, how many players we had. And we've got, right now I'm out here working with a company that's a service disabled veteran owned small business. And we're actually managing the two largest steel erectors on the project. So at our peak time, a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had about 65 guys out here that were under our direction on Prevailing Wage. So 65, you're probably talking somewhere around, I'd say probably $400,000 a week in payroll.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy because these guys were working 70, some of my guys were working almost 80 hours a week, because they were here 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So they were, of course, Texas was making a lot of money too, but these guys were out here, it was kind of crazy. We were out here from dawn till dusk and sometimes we were out here with lights, trying to get things organized to get this building together. And we even had a week of rain, within that last 9 weeks. So,
yeah.
So it's pretty amazing what's happened here with all these people here and everybody working together.
That's crazy. Are you like at this point in what you're doing now, are you a one-man show, or do you have anybody else working that kind of helps you out, or how does that work logistically for you? That's kind of the creative thing is like, when I had my erection company and I had 60 guys in the field, I had about 4 or 5 full-time office staff, depending on the project flow. I had project managers and bookkeepers and office admin that helped with compliance and payroll and all that good stuff. So when I took a break and I kind of really thought through this, I thought, you know what? I would love this strategy. I got to tell you, the first Friday when I didn't have payroll, it was like a party all day long, man. It was, and you guys, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but if, anybody out there that signs the front of the check on Fridays, or on Thursdays,
I tell you what, man, that first Friday when I didn't have to pay $150,000 in payroll, I got to tell you, man, I was like, oh, I could get used to this. So,
Yeah, right.
so after that, I started actually coming up with models to where I could do different projects. And then I work solely for myself as a consultant. And then everything that I do as all of my partners and all of the people that I work with are either they're either business owners on their own, and so I give them contracts, and so everyone is contracted, or they actually work with one of my clients. So I work very close with my clients, and so it kind of keeps it really simple. So that way, sometimes it gets complicated. Like when I've got a lot of stuff going on, then sometimes I'll actually, hire my wife or my daughter, to help me, print drawings and do some paperwork and things like that need to be done. So it can get hectic every once in a while, but for the most part, it's been really good. I mean, it's been really nice, to just be able to move quickly. And that was something that I learned kind of from, I don't know, Simon Sinek, and, I'm a big fan of Patrick Lencioni and Simon Sinek and Dave Ramsey and guys like that, where, they tell you've got to be, you've got to be agile, and you've got to be able to kind of move with the market if you want to survive. And so that's something that I've really tried to do, is I've tried to make sure that I don't take on things that, that I'm not really good at. And then, try to make sure that I'm flexible. So for instance, like this project here, I mean, I literally was able to kind of, not extend my contract with my previous clients. And then I took on some other projects to kind of help fill my time before this thing hit. We didn't start erecting this building until January the 27th. And so it was kind of nice. I mean, all through November, December, and the first part of January, I was pretty flexible. So, I mean, I was at home, bidding jobs in my pajamas and taking the family on a trip to Park City for Thanksgiving, and, and doing some fun things that sometimes I don't have time to do. Like this job here has pretty much been kicking my butt for nine straight weeks. And so my family's really kind of paid the price, because, I'm gone from 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, every day, Monday through Friday, and some Saturdays. And so that's kind of the, the kind of ebb and flow. It goes up and down. And so, I try to help my family understand there's seasons where I have to work a lot in order to help projects be successful. And then there's also some seasons where I can, be at home and help coach basketball or football or something. And then, take some nice trips and try to spend some good time with the family. But now during quarantine, it's actually kind of nice that I have to work, because, I don't think I could handle, stuff at home all the time. I mean, I've got 4 kids, man. So my wife is losing her mind, and it's been crazy.
Now, Daniel, in terms of kind of what you were talking about, whether it was managing the workload or building the infrastructure so that they could accommodate the sales, how often, and I don't know if Mike necessarily asked this but how often are you finding jobs that are requiring both, I guess? Or are they, when you're going in to meet with the CEO or the president of the company, and they're kind of detailing kind of the issues that are at hand, and you're trying to figure out ways to help them, how often do you find yourself on the job and actually managing the actual project versus navigating some of the ebbs and flows of the company itself?
It's very rare. Like even on this project, I'm not hands-on telling the men, the tradesmen what to do, because I'm a couple levels up from that to where what I do is I work with the foreman and the superintendents. Okay. And we try. So what we try to do is, like, when the tradesmen come in and go, man, I got a problem, this is not working, then we all kind of just drop everything and jump on those issues and try to come up with solutions right away. We try to plan ahead. We try to run the schedules and figure out, where are these guys going to go after they're done with this, and how can we make this go a little bit faster. But as far as like a new company, like let's say that someone calls me tomorrow and says, hey, I'd love to have you come in and see if you could help us grow, right? After all these years of doing this, I got to tell you, when I had my own business, there was two things out of that, well, maybe three things out of that business that really like just excite me to a place where I almost can't sleep, or at least I can jump out of bed in the morning. And one of them is erecting a building. I love seeing steel go up in the air. I love running the equipment. I love barking at the guys and smoking a nice cigar while we're building a building, right? I just love that. That's, to me, that builds so much testosterone, you could bottle it and sell it, but then next to that is sales. I love sales. I love working with a team of intelligent people, putting together a proposal on a nice project. And it really doesn't matter if it's, a couple $100,000 or, a $5 million project. It doesn't matter. Of course, it's always fun when it's a huge project that most other people don't have the courage to take on. Then that makes it even more exciting. It's kind of like fighting a bear, like you're like, this could totally kill me, right? Like this, like that's what I always tell clients whenever they want to go outside of their comfort zone. I always tell them it's kind of like riding a motorcycle. It's like, it's fun and exciting. But if you don't know that it can kill you and you don't have that respect for it, then it will kill you. If you jump on a motorcycle and you just don't care about living or dying, you're probably going to die quicker than not. And so I always tell guys, when you take on a big project, you've got to give it that respect and say, man, if I don't watch every little detail and if I don't have my guys on point all throughout this project could take down my company. It could force us into bankruptcy. If you're not watching safety and processes, your guys could get hurt, people could get killed. So I try to make sure that people understand that no matter what level they're at, whether they're in estimating or whether they're in project management or whether they're guys out here on the job, I'll walk up to them and say, hey, I know you don't know me from Adam, but if you don't watch this right here, it'll cut your head off, and I'll try to warn them ahead of time and say, hey, let's make sure we slow down a minute and do this correctly, so that, we can all look back at this as a nice, successful project. So whenever clients come to me and say, hey, I want you to help me grow, then my first thing is I start asking them a ton of questions. I want them to tell me all about their company. I want them to tell me about the jobs that have been really good and the jobs that have been really bad. Tell me everything. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't tell me how amazing everything is when it's really not. Be truthful with me. And then I love going through companies and just talking to their people. I'd love to talk to their estimators and their project managers and the people that control the billings and the people that control the finances and just talk to them about reality. Like, where are you, and what projects went really well, like what projects could be the perfect project if you had it again, right? Or what projects just totally knocked you on your butt, and which projects do we stay away from, right? So that's what I try to do, because when I first started, I was so anxious to go sell work and then bring it to people and help them grow that like I said before, I would bring them the amount of work they asked for. And then I would see kinks in the armor or, issues in certain departments that couldn't handle that kind of growth or a higher pace. So now I try to do more homework and I try to look at, do you have the right people in the right place? You'd be surprised. Some of these companies have been around for 40, 50 years, and they have people in positions that they're really just not the right person in the right place. And then sometimes it could be the right person in the right place, but they don't have the right tools that they need to do their job at a higher level, or they don't have the right information. For instance, this company up north that I went and worked at for 7 months, when I went in there, it was almost it was almost shocking to me. They had these guys in there that they called project managers, but yet they were holding information away from these people. They were keeping information from these guys that were actually making these guys fail. So I said, why are you calling this guy a project manager if you're not giving him the information he needs to properly manage the job? So we talked about it in detail, and then they agreed with me, and they didn't realize it. And so we changed that process almost immediately, and we went into the PMs and we said, hey, now you have access to all this information. And they were like super excited, like kids in a candy store, which is weird, right? But they were super excited because they felt like now they had all the information and the tools they needed to be successful. And so that's something that sometimes I feel like, coming in from the outside, I have I have more of an ability to kind of cross some lines and be truthful with the CEO or supervisors, because I don't care whether they like me or not. I'm there to do a job, and if they want to grow and they want things to be healthy, then sometimes it's got to be a little uncomfortable for a little while. And I think that sometimes the subordinates, don't necessarily have the confidence to bring those things up. Or if they do, then sometimes they're not listened to. But anyway, if you haven't figured that out, I can talk a lot, bro.
No, that's perfect. With these things always turn out a little bit better when we do a lot less talking, because the guests we have are a lot more interesting than we are. So we know we appreciate that. Kind of on that note a little bit. What not so much on the talking so much note, but more on the you're able to do a little bit more than maybe some of the other people can do inside the company. But kind of along those lines, how often do you find yourself in a situation where, probably not so much within the company, because I would assume when you get brought on that it's made pretty well known, hey, Daniel's here to do a job, and, he's going to have access to this, and whatever. But more dealing with, because I would assume these companies that you're working with, most of them have been established for a while and they have relationships, but then you come in and you're now the guy that they're talking to or that they're dealing with, or however it works. But do you find yourself in a situation often where hey, maybe you're not given the same respect or authority or whatever with this the company that you're working for as clients or their personnel, just because you're kind of new there, or how much, I guess, how does that relationship work out?
Well, no, there's been, it seems like, that's one exciting thing, is usually when I go in, every company's different, right? And so it's kind of like, if you can imagine, some companies, if they've been around a while, and if they had some of those, like legendary leaders that are gone now, then they say, oh, well, this is, kind of that old thing. This is the way we've always done it. Right. And we don't know why, but this is the way we do it. Right. And then sometimes, they just, everybody's kind of free for all. So I think the second major client that I went to, he was one of those weird ones where he didn't tell anyone who I was or why I was there. And so it was a little uncomfortable, because people be like, well, who the hell do you think you are? Right. And I was like, look, dude, I'm just here trying to help, So then I, after a couple of days of that, I went back to him and I said, look, I think you need to put out a company-wide email and explain to people that I'm here as a friend. I'm here to help, like if I ask them all these questions, I'm just curious as to how things operate.
You're not the tax auditor, right?
Yeah. So, there was some people, and but that's also a sign. That's also a sign when people don't want to freely share information, then it kind of raises your brow to say, what are you trying to hide? Like, are you intentionally trying to hide your mistakes, or are you not confident in the process or confident in your own skills? And so that's a telltale sign, when people know, hey, I'm here to help. And then they're hesitant about, kind of opening the books and saying, this is how I do this, and this is how this goes, and this is how this goes. And it turned out that company was exactly that way, to where everyone was trying to cover their own ass. And they weren't confident in their own ability to do their job. So what they would do is when an issue came up with a client or when they had a problem, they would either sweep it under the rug and then hope that it never exploded so that no one would ever find out, or they would CC everyone in the whole company and then not come up with a solution. And then that way, when the thing blew up, they would say, well, you were on the emails. Like, why didn't you step in and help? And yeah. And so I told them, I go, guys, listen, and that's when I learned that, I had to kind of start over with everyone and start training them, just like if I had, like my oldest daughter is 18. And so whenever I have her help me with paperwork or something, I have to stop and I have to like explain the process and the purpose to all these things in order to get her to understand the paperwork and what it means and how to do it correctly. And so what I started doing with those guys, with project managers that have been, some of them were in their 60s. I mean, there's one guy that I love to death now, but the first couple months, man, it was rough. I mean, this old guy hated me, and he didn't want to give me any information. He didn't want to talk to me. But the funny thing is, he'd been a PM for 40 years, right? 40 years he's been a PM. And so I got all the project managers together and I said, listen, guys, I know that you've been doing this on your own. I'm just here to help. But my advice is when there's a problem, you stop everything and you handle that problem. You find the solution right away. I don't care how nasty or dirty or messy it is. And if you can't do that, if you can't pick up the phone and call the client right then and talk to them about this issue that we ran into, then come get me. Come get me and I will stop everything I'm doing and we will call the client together. And when I started doing that, and it kind of just happened. It's not like I had a system in place for that. That it just kind of happened. And that turned out to be one of the best things that I started teaching project managers, because even up until, the last couple of months, when we had a problem come up and people were like, oh man, someone's going to be pissed. This is going to cost someone money. I go, listen, that is all secondary. The first thing we have to do is get to the root of the problem. We have to communicate with everyone. And then all of us work together to come up with a solution as soon as possible. And if we do that, then you'd be surprised at how people really don't get that upset about it, in comparison to if you sweep it under the rug or you ignore it for a couple of months. And then when it really blows up and impacts something big, then they're like, well, why the hell didn't you tell me this 2 months ago? So when I started teaching PMs, kind of damage control and putting out fires and things like that, and then we also would turn that into, okay, if this is a common problem that happens to you on every single project, then let's figure out why it continues to happen, and then let's go fix that, and then we started, learning how to plan ahead and teach these people, like, have you done all your homework to plan ahead? And most of these guys, you'd be surprised that some of these companies, they work their PMs to death. So they can't even plan ahead because they're so overloaded that they're just trying to get through the day. They're just trying to hit deadlines that are coming up on them quick. They're kind of just putting out the big fires instead of trying to get ahead of them. And
yeah, no, I think it's, those issues are in every company. So I think the fact that you're able to kind of develop a system there and kind of help those guys out, I think is great. I would imagine it's probably a lot of word of mouth just because of the kind of work you do, but how are you going around looking, or are you even actively looking for new clients, or is it just kind of take it as they come kind of?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's always kind of come to me. I didn't really, I mean, there's been some slim times in the last 5 or 6 years where, I'll kind of get in a slump to where, maybe I finish some projects and, just like everybody else in construction or even in small business, there's been some times where I was like, man, it'd be nice to have another client or two right now, to kind of help bridge the gap. But the thing is that is that usually, like, since I help clients go after new projects, and since I usually have a long list of general contractors that are calling me saying, hey, do you have someone that can bid on this project? Do you have someone that can do this work for me? I kind of built up a network of people in different areas, to where, say for instance, if a general contractor, which you'd be shocked how often this happens, but I've got general contractors that call me and say, you know what, we're supposed to pour concrete here in a couple of weeks, and nobody ordered the steel embeds that have to go in this concrete. Yeah, and so part of my brain is like, well, what the hell have you been doing for the last 6 months? And then the other part of my brain is like, well, hey, thank God, because I got guys that can do this work, and I can help them out, and maybe I could even pick up the rest of the job, and I mean, you'll have guys that'll order a building. They'll order a building off the internet, which if anyone's listening, please don't ever do that. They'll go, hey, you know what? I want a 20,000 square foot, garage or whatever. And so they'll go on the internet, they'll look up metal buildings, and they'll order one from Pennsylvania, right? And guess what? Pennsylvania people don't know about, like, California seismic and earthquakes and all the
construction code,
stupid laws and the restrictions that we have here in California. So I mean, I've literally, I could tell you in the last few years, I've had 3 or 4 people call me where they've already bought land and they've already bought buildings, and neither one of those things are zoned to where you can put the building on the land, even if you own the land, right? And so I'm always the guy that says, you know what, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the land that you bought and the building that you bought, you cannot put those things together, because the city that you bought the land in is not going to allow you to build that building right there. And so they'll go, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then they've got all of this material out there, on the ground that they ordered from Pennsylvania that is a total waste, because some salesman out in Pennsylvania wanted to make some money and didn't care, whether they could build the building or not. He just sold them the building. So there's people that'll find my website and then they'll call me and they'll say, oh, I already did this. And I go, no, please don't, please stop. Like,
return.
Let me help you save yourself from yourself, and so what we do, I mean, California, we are an amazing hub of steel manufacturers. I mean, we've got steel manufacturers all the way from the border in South San Diego, all the way up through, the top of Riverside County, all through LA. I mean, there are steel warehouses and fabricators all over, Southern California. There's really no reason anybody should be buying steel from Arizona or Utah or anywhere further out than that, because you might save a little bit of money by buying it in another state, but by the time it gets here and you deal with some of the issues that can happen, then you're not going to save any money at all. So it's better to have someone local.
Yeah. So is that it in terms of what causes someone to call you? Is it usually kind of they've found themselves in a jam and they've heard about you and they know that you could help them get out of that? Or I'm sure there's probably not a yes or no answer to this question, because it sounds like you kind of run the gamut in terms of companies and clients that you have. But what is, I guess probably the better question is, what is the main reason that someone would call you and get started on a project?
Well, that's a good question, because usually the only people that call me to help them fix their problems is people that know that I've already worked with. Because like if you just looked up my website, usually the only people that call me out of the blue are people that looked up my website and they need a steel contractor. They either need they either need to build a steel project, or they want to bid, or like I said before, some of them, they said, hey, I've already ordered all the steel, but I don't have an erector. And so I'll say, hey, you know what? I can definitely handle that for you, and then I'll help them, go through whatever. And some of them, they know what they're doing. They just say, no, I just have a project and I want to bid. So I'll say, well, email me your drawings and we'll give you a bid on whatever kind of scope that you want us to cover. And so most of the design build, like the large projects, like, we haven't even really gone over that list, but, we just a couple months ago, I partnered with an 8A out of Rialto that's called Golden State Grading, and they're an 8A contractor. And this buddy of mine, we met years ago and we started going after projects. We just built the Oculus, which is the scoreboard structure for the LA Stadium. We did that.
That's awesome.
That thing, like this building here, the building in San Diego, this design took us about a year and a half to do the design and get to construction and actually build the building. The scoreboard at the LA Stadium, I think we started that 2.5 years ago. And we just delivered the last sections back in maybe the end of February. And, And so, and that was one of those elephants that we were like, everyone's going to say we're stupid for going after it, but I don't care. We're going to go after it anyway. And the only reason that we actually got into that project and got a $5 million contract to design and engineer and build that scoreboard was because we were more persistent than some of the other more established companies. Like some more established companies, they won't put up with the runaround when they go, oh yeah, we didn't want you to come to LA every single week and sit in a design meeting. And then we're just going to rip apart your designs. And then we're going to tell you to throw that one in the trash and start over. And then, a month later, they'll tell you to throw that one in the trash and start over. And most of the other companies won't put up with that. They can't stand it. They're like, look, I don't have time for this. Like I need to build
pride
something.
And ego gets in the way there.
Yeah. They're like, well, I'm too good for this. So we did the, let me think here. So we did the design and the construction of the, I put the face on the Hollywood Bowl way back in 2007. There was a new face on the Hollywood Bowl that no one else wanted to touch. And so we did that because it was kind of crazy. We built the tiger enclosure at the Wild Animal Park, which is one of the craziest types of structures, but it was also just an enormous feat to build because it was in the Wild Animal Park and it was hard to get to. And there was this tree right beside it that looked like an old dried up Christmas tree. And they said, hey, by the way, there's no other tree like that in the entire world. So it's literally priceless. And we had to put our steel right beside it and weld all our steel together. So I had to pay a laborer to come out there and hose the tree down all day long while we were building the building. And I mean, there's, and there was crazy things there. And then we built some amazing military things that, that's pretty awesome because the military actually has the money. When they say, hey, I want this huge building, they'll do it right. And they, won't cut corners because they pull that money out and say, this is, get it done. Right.
Yeah.
Then we did, we did the stadium, which has been an enormous feat. And then this building here. But yeah, over the last 20 years, I mean, there's been a handful of really cool projects that, that it's nice when you can actually, if your kids actually care, you can say, hey, I built that. Right. But yeah, so, I mean, there's been some really fun stuff and then there's some other stuff where, it's really difficult and hard, but it's just part of the system. So right now, I mean, we do anything from, like say, for instance, somebody could call up and say, hey, I have an idea and I want to see if this is possible. We can start from a napkin sketch and I could have a 3D model in a couple of days. I mean, I could literally draw it out on a napkin or a piece of paper and give it to one of my designers and they could come up with a 3D model that's somewhat close to the engineering that's needed in Southern California. And so we can actually say, well, this is what it would look like, and this is approximately how much it would cost. Right now, we're doing that for a big church in Temecula. The Orchard Church has been growing like crazy for the last few years, and so they bought an old shopping center, and we're going to go in there and rip the roof off of these two big buildings, and then reinforce it with steel and literally raise the roof and build a new church building in there. And so it's pretty awesome because we can sit down with that leadership team, come up with some generic ideas, and then within a week or two, I can come back with a 3D model and put it up on the TV screen and show them what the structure of their new church building would look like. And then, and then we move things around and we discuss things. That's the benefit to design build, is that you can make sure that when the building is built, that it perfectly suits the purpose that it's being made for. I mean, back in the day, they'd build these buildings and then by the time you got into the building, because it took so long, by the time you got into the building, it didn't necessarily work right. And then, they'd start remodeling a brand new building. And so it's just a waste of money. So design build has come a long way. Technology and 3D modeling has definitely helped us in that. And so it's a pretty fun business to be in, to help clients, get the right structure and the right building and make sure that it comes together quickly and efficiently.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously the technology, I think, is a huge piece of that for sure. Kind of switching gears a little bit from just because it kind of popped into my head as you're talking about all these different things you do. And I mean, we don't obviously have to get into too much detail on it to give away too many of your trade secrets, but because you do so many different things and that wide gamut, right? Like I would imagine you don't have a menu on your website that says for me to do this, it's this much, for me to do this. So are you working that out ahead of time? Is it a contract between you and the contractor to kind of, or your clients to kind of figure out like, hey, this is what we're going to need and this is what we wanted and kind of figure that out as far as the pay structure?
Yeah. Like if you look at my website, we've got a menu of capabilities. So you can say, so depending on what you're looking for, you can go on there and you can see that, like we could literally start you out from zero and take you all the way to a finished steel building, right? Or if it's a bigger project and you're doing other things, then we can jump in as the steel contractor and just take care of a certain scope. But usually when we start with a client, depending on their needs, like if I'm consulting, then we'll sit down and I'll say, okay, what do you need from me? And then we'll talk about how much time that'll take and how much that'll cost. And then usually, if we start talking about, a lot of time and a lot of money and things like that, then my big thing is since I've built several businesses and I love entrepreneurship and I love this industry, then I always tell them, I go, look, here's what we can do is you pay me this minimal consulting fee, right? And then what I'll do is as I help your company ramp up and become more profitable, then you and I can talk about a bonus structure or a profit sharing type structure to where I can say, look, if, like for instance, last year, that company, they wanted to grow. They wanted $44 million worth of sales in the first 3 quarters. And in the first 2 quarters, I brought them $52 million worth of sales. And it was just because the momentum that we had built up, it just kind of went past 44 and went into 52. And the only reason that we had the CFO sign off on that was because a lot of that work, probably $10 or $15 million worth of that work was kind of pushed out into the fourth quarter and the first quarter of this year. So it worked out to where it wasn't too much work at one time. But with that, there was a set monthly fee or salary that they were paying me to work in there so that, I can give them a full effort and put in whatever kind of hours it takes to get that job done. And then once we closed the deal and they were able to close contracts and put that work on the books, then there was a fee that we agreed on. And that way, I'm not really making a lot of money until my client makes a lot of money.
Yeah. No,
and so that's the way I want to do it, because I don't want to be, one of those guys like I was talking about from Pennsylvania that'll sell you a building that you can't even build. And so yeah, I mean, I love small business and I love helping people grow. And, one of the biggest points of pride is when you have all these employees that depend on you for a paycheck. And then when you see those guys prosper, like, when you got guys coming to you saying, hey, we're going to buy a house, or, you see them pull up in a new truck, and you see these guys that are really doing well and earning a good living, because of the projects that we're able to come down, and bring down consistently, then that for me is that right there is success. That's what success is when, you've got other people depending on you, and they're able to have a nice lifestyle and love their work.
Yeah, for sure. So before we let you go here, we won't take up too much more of your time. I think I just have one more question for you, and then we'll let you do some plugs here. But the one question that's kind of burning inside my head now as I listen to you talk and I hear your passion. Do you see yourself doing this forever, or for an extended period of time, or where are you at on starting your own erection company, and since you have all these different ways to do these systems that I think obviously sound pretty efficient, is that something that's crossed your mind at all?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while it's tempting. It's tempting to, like when I get frustrated, like sometimes I'll give these guys advice, and I'll say, hey, look, I've seen this, the situation we're in, I'll see this happen before. Here's my advice. And when you see guys that don't take your advice and then they go down a bad road because, they didn't listen or something like that, then it gets frustrating to where I'm like, you know what, I should just do this myself. I should just start up another company. Or when you see a nice project come up and you're like, man, I should do that, because that guy's going to make $150,000 in profit. I should do that. But at the same time, like I said, I've got 4 kids at home. My oldest is 18, and I know what kind of time it takes to build a company and then manage a company. And to be honest, to do it right, it takes, not only does it take that amount of time, but it also takes a lot of money. And so right now, every time I kind of go down that road, then I usually end up talking myself out of it, going, you know what, I've got a nice gig. I got a nice gig right now to where, like when I wrap this up, I mean, I could take the family, after COVID-19, right? I could just take a week off and take the kids out of school and go on a trip. And, and I don't have to worry about a business, having a lot of issues while I'm, taking a family vacation. So there's all kinds of benefits to where I'm at right now. And so it's still out there. Who knows? Maybe if I run into the right people, at the right time, then that'll come up, and who knows, maybe we'll start that. Cause I know some of your other podcasts, you guys talk pretty often about, the labor shortage, which, we are exactly in the same boat as far as the steel industry. We've got a lot of iron workers and welders that are getting up in their late 50s and they're retiring. And then, we got a lot of young kids that are coming in here wanting to make $1 million without breaking a sweat. And those two things just don't line up. So, and like, Fed Vet, we're doing the same thing. We've got connections with the military, and we're trying to find guys, that are coming out, and see if we can get them into this industry and teach them, because this is a fun trade, especially for athletic adrenaline junkies. I mean, steelwork is I think right now, steelwork and roofing is the 4th most dangerous career in the country. And it's fun, it's fun to be up on the steel. Like right now, I could get up on this building and I can see all of downtown San Diego and the Coronado Bridge and the whole bay. And it's just amazing, and so I really enjoy this, and we're looking for good people that want to get into this trade. And so I think right now, I love what I do, but I love helping all these other companies and helping them improve where they're at and helping them grow. And then it gives me the ability to help, them put more people to work. And so I do think that the impact that I'm making now is a lot more than the impact that I would be able to make if I was just running my own company. So that's a good question, and so now you're going to have me thinking about that.
Yeah, but there's I mean, you're welcome, right? But I got to imagine there's a comfortability and a peace of mind going to sleep at night, knowing that at the end of the day, it's not your butt on the line. It's at the top of the food chain. When
that's right.
When as they say that when everything hits the fan. So yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, well, I love entrepreneurship and I love small business, and so whenever someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting my own business," I always say, "Look, you got to write out your business model." And I'm kind of like the sharks at Shark Tank. I'm like, you got to generate sales before you do anything else. And I always tell them, if you can start a company with no employees and work out the kinks and the bugs and make money, then it's worth spending more time and money on.
Yeah.
But anyone that wants to rush out there and take a second out of their house and rent a space in the middle of Temecula and sell snow cones, I'm going to tell them, oh, hell no, don't do that. You're going to waste your money because you're not going to make it 6 months. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, the first question is, how many snow cones do you need to sell just to pay rent, right? And, one of my big passions right now is, I got 4 kids in private Christian school in Temecula, and I'm working with the administration there, of course, before COVID-19 hit. But we want to start educating the young people on entrepreneurship and business models and actually thinking about it. If you were going to have a hot dog cart or a lemonade stand or anything like that, like write a business model and put a plan together and tell me what your costs are. Tell me how many you need to sell before you start making some money. And I got to tell you, my kids are entrepreneurs, man, because I've raised them that way and I beat them up all the time. And every time they ask me a question, I tell them, dude, you better tell me how much that costs and why it is that daddy's paying for that, And the password to my kids' Netflix is get a job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to raise them right, man. But it's so good to talk to you guys, and I'd love to meet these other people that you've had on your podcast, because I enjoy hearing their stories about how they either started a business or how they grow their business. So I love what you're doing, and so I'm not shocked that we've been on the phone about an hour. So
yeah, no, we appreciate it. We'll definitely have to do some sort of reunion with our guests if we can, or start some sort of network or something online at least.
Yeah, man, that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, we appreciate the time. If you could just give us a plug about your business, website, phone number, whatever, and
how do the people find you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so steeldesignandbuild.com is my website, and my name is Daniel Williams. My phone number's on the website. My phone number is 949-303-6084. And the reason I live in Temecula, but I got a 949 is because, like one of you guys, we used to live in Ladera, and
yeah, I know Ladera. That's my home.
I know, man. I heard you say that earlier, and we lived in Ladera, and we loved it, man. We loved it, but we had to move back to Temecula to kind of be closer to family and help take care of the in-laws, and so we were over there when I really started booming with my erection business, and so I've always just kept the number to help people stay in touch with me. I'm on LinkedIn. There's only about 5,000 Daniel J. Williamses on LinkedIn. So good luck with that. And but yeah, so I'm my old company was called Williams Steel Construction, which is pretty basic and generic. But as I started doing this, I thought, you know what? Like, I think the name of your company should actually help explain what you do or what you're offering, right? So when I came up with Steel Design and Build, I actually just got excited because I was like, it makes sense. It just makes sense because, I love steel and we can help anyone design and build anything, any kind of project they have. I've done everything from, gates and fences, for friends, all the way up to, to big, huge, monstrous buildings. And so we love doing that. So it's been awesome, man. And I'm glad that you guys got this thing going and that you had an hour of your day to spend on the phone with me.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Excellent.
We appreciate the time. It was
right,
it was
well,
awesome.
take care.
Yeah, no, you guys have a great day and stay safe out there and stay socially distant and let's try and get through this thing.
On.
Yeah, right before and then once we get through all this, we'll maybe find a time to have that beer and some more stories for sure.
Oh, you better believe it, man. That would be great.
All right, brother. Have a good one, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel.
Take care. All right, bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.